Hey Sun Space Sun, I'm Daisy Viktoria. Today we're going to explore something that a late 14th, early 15th century medieval lady would have worn, except we're gonna make it fantasy because fantasy hair, and I need to show it off. I think this is a great opportunity to show how we can take something historical and make a fantasy thing out of it while not losing the historical basis. So this explores the concept of taking historical elements and making a believable fantasy world, character, whatever you want, that still has the deep roots in the historical period and still reads clearly as that period. So one of the things that's really important to me is the silhouette and the overall clothing. This dress was patterned from my medieval kirtle or cotehardie tutorial, and that is based on period sources. So the silhouette of this dress is really what brings this all together. What I'm doing very differently from the period silhouette is I'm using my hair down and with some waves in it, and I'm gonna wear a crown. So it's not period headwear, but it's a period look, so it's very much a believable medieval fantasy gown. When I first joined the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is a medieval and Renaissance recreation group, I was so excited to make the medieval dresses I'd always dreamed of wearing. I love pre-Raphaelites and later imaginings of the medieval period, and I really love the imagery on which those were based and inspired. This dress is a culmination of all of that. It encompasses the period inspiration from the Middle Ages, yet also it takes it to a fantasy realm and makes it into a bit of a fairy tale. When I created this dress, my primary inspiration for the specific look was from Duc de Berry's Très Riche Heures. This is a book of hours that was illuminated from approximately 1412 to 1416. I was especially inspired by this image, which represents the month of April. For my dress, I decided to use an underkirtle or a base layer dress that I already had in red. This dress is red linen and it laces up in the front. That way support is built into the garment itself, a subject I would love to talk more about in an upcoming video. I chose linen for this dress for practicality. When I made this dress, I lived in the Los Angeles area and all of our events were very hot. A single layer of linen was definitely my go-to. The outer layer of my dress is another linen kirtle. This dress is made of purple linen. I chose the linen once again for practicality and cost. In period, we would be much more likely to see a wool gown worn on the outside, and it has this extra contrasting velvet at the bottom. Sometimes dresses in period examples had contrast near the hem, and in fact the one in Duc de Berry's Très Riche Heures that so inspired me may have had a contrast at the bottom. Otherwise it's the lining, but it looks kind of like a contrast. The velvet is a silk velvet. It may be a silk rayon blend actually. Velvet was seen in period, and in fact you see it used on a lot of sort of fancy garments, and I think you can see that this dress is mimicking a fancy garment as it is deep purple, which is not an easy color to find in period. Typically you would see purple used with royalty. It's very extravagant and expensive, even though this fabric was not expensive for me today. Things change. My two dresses are made from the same pattern. Sometimes you can make the outer dress a little bit larger. I kind of made these with the intent that I could wear them both separately, so that's why I made them the exact same size. And being that they just lace all the way tight, it doesn't really make too much of a difference when I wear them. The tippets that hang from my arms are made of the same velvet. The lady in the portrait I was mimicking does have tippets. I really like these because I think they're so fun. They're just sort of this long dangly bit coming from the arm, and it's really cool. I I also have some cute little details on this dress. I created some finger loop cord, and I'll link to you the video where I teach you how to do that. And I applied this cord to some of the edging of my dress just to give it a little bit more texture and dimension. This is something that we see in some period sources, some sort of a decorative cord woven at the edge of a garment, and I think it's just so lovely. Here is where this particular dress departs more from the historical image. I added a belt for this particular styling because we see belts worn so often in medieval-inspired fantasy pieces. And yes, there were lots of belts worn in the Middle Ages, but as you can see here, there's not a belt shown in the original outfit. A lot of times when you wear two dresses like this, there would be a belt around the inner dress, and then you would hang your purses or anything from that belt. This belt here is primarily decorative. Well, in this representation, it's merely only decorative. For the headwear, I did in fact create the padded roll from the period image back when I first made the purple dress, and I think it's so lovely. I have so much fun wearing it. I feel like I stepped right out of Très Riche's, but today I wanted to do a different look. Today I wanted to show off my fantasy hair and become a fairy tale character. We don't really see women wearing their hair down in the Middle Ages, especially not when going out and about, and certainly we don't see them with fantasy colored hair. So perhaps I'm a little bit more of a fairy tale creature here. Another thing I did is I added a crown. Now, do we see crowns in the medieval period? Of course, we see lots of them. So that's why this fits right into that medieval inspiration. The crown itself is not meant to be period accurate in any way. It's just a fantasy crown that I got, and I think it's so fun. I do think it has a look that reads medieval, so it invokes that medieval inspiration while still going for more of a just fantasy look. The sword is another added fantasy accessory. This sword is loosely inspired by medieval weapons. I think it was actually based on the Excalibur sword from a King Arthur movie. So it's got that overall medieval look, while not going for historical accuracy. It was a cheap prop sword, and I love it a lot. It gets the job done. I think it looks so good with this outfit and really brings this character into a space that we see so often with female characters in fantasy and medieval inspired fairy tale stories, as someone who looks delicate and beautiful but can also fight. Who can relate to that?